Hi, Sterling Allan here. I wanted to give a special presentation on November 11, 2011, 11/11/11, which is the launch date of this movie Thrive. I haven't had a chance to watch it myself yet. I've seen the trailer and have been promoting it on our website for quite some time. There's several things I wanted to bring up. First of all, with this being, with all the debt crisis and whatnot going on in the world, economic meltdown, people are really having a lot of anxiety about what's going on, where things are headed. And I actually am very hopeful about where things are headed as a planet. I feel like there's an awakening that's taking place. People are realizing that we've got to do things different. We need to awaken to several things. Our innate potential as human beings, that we can do great things, and that we should not be puppet masters to, the 1%, the super elite who have loads of money and have been manipulating the population like puppets. And it's time for us to wake up and to take back control of our lives, to take responsibility for our lives. And I think it's important that we not blame the 1% for everything that's happened. We can't say it's their fault. We've allowed this to happen as a human civilization, and we need to take responsibility, take ownership, and realize that there are some changes we need to make fundamentally to prevent things like this from happening, because this is really a manifestation of who we are, where we're at as a human society, that we would allow people like this to come into play. And so when you look at Italy, for example, they're talking about Italy being about to explode, so to speak, and Greece is about to explode, and Europe's about to explode, and then the United States and the rest of the world is about to tumble into this economic morass. And indeed, those things are certainly in the cards. We have made some bad choices about debt, where we have put way too much into putting it on credit cards, putting it on a debt load on future generations. We start out with a certain amount that we want to get on credit so we can have it now, as opposed to work for it and get it later. And then we start having to do the debt service. And this takes more and more time. It gets heavier, the debt load gets bigger. We end up maxing our credit, so to speak, both individually and as a country. And because the ability to work off this debt is encumbered, because now everything's falling apart. So how can we, if we're about to lose our job, or if our job has cut back in the amount of hours that we can work, how can we possibly pay off this debt? And so it seems impossible. How can we possibly rise above this hole that we've dug for ourselves? And I see it differently. I see, I mentioned Italy is about to explode, but Italy is actually the basis of something which is about to explode for good, which is technology by Andrea Rossi, which we launched today, the official website of Andrea Rossi's cold fusion technology, a 1 megawatt power plant, a cold fusion plant that has no radioactive waste coming out of it and requires no radioactive elements to go into it. It does produce some radioactivity during the reaction, where you get some gamma radiation going on that heats up the substrate so that you can get this great heat as a product that you produce 1 megawatt of heat. And how much is 1 megawatt? A small diesel locomotive that pulls trains down the track is about a megawatt. And so that's a lot of power. Of course, that's a different kind of energy, that's torque, whereas 1 megawatt of heat is steam or hot water. But this power plant, 1 megawatt power plant, was tested successfully on October 28th. I was there present in Bologna when the test was conducted by the first customer in the world, making history who conducted the test, had engineers on hand, and signed off on the test, put down the money for the product, bought the product, and is being delivered. And now other customers are being accepted. And for those of you that are skeptical about this technology, obviously there's a lot of new things about it. I'm listening to a video or a book on tape right now about Galileo, and it's amazing. You know, Galileo was also out of Italy. He was in Florence. He was in Pisa and other places around the country, living and working and doing his scientific studies of the stars and the real work of how the planets go around the sun and the moons go around the planet, and all of the things that he fought in the establishment that says, no, that's impossible, that's not the way it is. We all know in the Bible it says the sun comes up in the morning, goes down in the evening, comes up in the east, and he was, you know, we all know the story of Galileo, gratefully, and we look at that as backwards thinking, and how could they possibly have thought that he was some kind of a heretic, because it was just pure science. And it makes so much sense to us now because we have so much more additional evidence about how the moon and the stars and whatnot function. And even Galileo didn't have everything right. He didn't understand gravity, he didn't understand tides, he had some crazy theories about that, yet he pushed the envelope in certain areas. And I'm seeing the same kind of scientific digging in the heels and resistance to cold fusion. You know, that's impossible. Science says it's crackpot science, and yet here's a device that's producing 1 megawatt of heat that is self-looped. It's powering itself for 5.5 hours. They measured 479 kilowatts continuous during this test, where I was at for 5.5 hours. You know, we weren't all present during the entire test because the customer wanted to remain confidential, but more importantly, the security provisions and the safety provisions would not allow more than 1 or 2 people at a time to be watching this technology in operation. It had to be a private event. It could not be public in any way. And so for those reasons, Andre Ross, you could only take back 1 or 2 at a time to look at it, and only for a short period of time. So it was for safety and for regulations, not for him trying to hide something. And it makes total sense to me. The biggest cue to me that he is not a fraud is for future customers. Number one, they get to describe the test that they want this thing to pass before they will put their money down. Well, number two, the money does not exchange hands until the test is successful. So what happens is you put your money, it's $2 million for a 1 megawatt plant, which is about twice as expensive as a nuclear or coal-fired plant, except you don't have the fuel cost, because one loading of the nickel in one of these reaction chambers in the hydrogen tank could last 6 months of continuous operation, producing 1 megawatt of heat. You know, what nuclear plant or what coal power plant or what natural gas power plant could do that? So this right now, building them one at a time, is about twice as expensive as one of those. Once it's mass produced and developed, it'll be 10 times cheaper than coal or natural gas. That's where we're headed with this technology. Very, very exciting. And so as these business opportunities start arising, that people can get involved in building and replicating and selling and installing, and this technology could be implemented in a matter of possibly 2 to 5 years. If you look at the curve of implementation of technologies into 1/4 of adoption by the society, so 1/4 market penetration in the United States, it took 100 years for the automobile to be implemented in 25% of the population. What was it? It's like 50 years for radio. You know, I can't remember the exact numbers, but as you look at the curve, it diminishes logarithmically over time, so that by the time you get to the internet, it took 7 years to reach 75% market penetration. And so the next breakthrough, according to that curve, is going to be like 1 to 2 years, but I think it may take a little longer because of the with cold fusion and other free energy technologies that are coming forth. And cold fusion isn't the only one. At freeenergynews.com, our website, you'll see a listing of our top 5 free energy technologies in process of emerging to be in the marketplace within 1 year. And now we've got cold fusion in the marketplace as of October 28th, which some people argue is actually the Mayan calendar correct date, was October 28th. And so, as part of that auspicious timing, November 11, 2011, 11/11/11 is a very interesting date, and it so happens that today is the date that the website, I've been working on it since October 20th with my associate Hank Mills. We've been pulling together the content and the layout and the organization, and in yesterday and this morning, in 2 sessions, I went through the website with Andrea Rossi. He loves the website. He loves what we've done with it. He's very, very busy, so don't think that he's read every single word and he's approved every last sentence. But he has a lot of confidence in us, and our understanding of the spirit of what he's trying to accomplish and the technicalities of what's going on in his technology. So it's going to be close to what he wants it to be. And he said he did read through the whole site. I'm sure he hasn't had time to read through every sentence and analyze it carefully. But you go to Leonardo, which is, Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo hyphen, that's a little dash, the minus sign, ECAT, ECAT.com. So Leonardo dash ECAT, not dash, hyphen, ECAT.com is the website. Has been launched today with the date 11/11/11, 4 o'clock Mountain Time today. We launched it, which is midnight GMT, so we almost made it to 11/11/11. It was actually exactly 4 o'clock that I posted that in our news, announcing the website was up and ready to go. And in the first 2 hours we had 1,000 visits already. The second hour we had by the second hour we had another 1,000. So it's been a lot of excitement and interest there. A lot of negative comments. You always get negative comments, and anything that's breaking, saying basically, it's amateurish and why, it's a 90s architecture. It is. I'm using front page 2000. That's what I'm comfortable with. That's what I learned on back when I started doing webmastering and learning how to publish a website. And the problem is, because I use that infrastructure and that's what I'm comfortable with, it's hard to update because other infrastructures are so different. So it's what I'm used to, and that's what I'm using. So, take it or leave it, but it's good content. It's well organized. You can get around in it well, and so take a look at that. One other thing I wanted to mention in terms of the economy and things exploding as opposed to are we going to explode into success or explode into catastrophe and destruction? It's a choice I think we have to make as a civilization and individually. In terms of tools, Gerald Celente talks about one of the things that can redeem us from a total meltdown is a productive capacity. And he specifically mentions this technology, the ECAT technology, back in his newsletter in January of 2011. He said that this ECAT or cold fusion technology is one to watch this year, and we've been watching it very carefully. I registered the domain name rossicoldfusion.com, and we have been putting stories out almost every day since January, when he first had a press conference announcing his several kilowatt capable cold fusion technology. We've been organizing materials and posting stories and linking to stories, and then I went over there on the 28th and was able to watch this historic event where the first product was tested and sold. And so if you want to buy a product, or if you know somebody who wants to buy a product, you put down $1 million in escrow. It has to be shown and proven up front. You have a signed contract that says once the device is built and tests according to these parameters that you determine and that Rossi agrees to, the device is yours and the money's his. Where's the fraud in that? There's no money that exchanges hands until you have the device is proven according to your specs. So this is exciting stuff, and it's really great to be part of this process. And I think it's important that we not blame the 1% for everything that's happened. We can't say it's their fault. We've allowed this to happen as a human civilization, and we need to take responsibility, take ownership, and realize that there are some changes we didn't need to make fundamentally to get on our website for quite some time. There are several things I wanted to bring up. First of all, with this being, with all the debt crisis and whatnot going on in the world, economic meltdown, people are really having a lot of anxiety about what's going on, where things are. Hi, Sterling Allan here. I wanted to give a special presentation on November 11, 2011, 11/11/11, which is the launch date of this movie Thrive. I haven't had a chance to watch it myself yet. I've seen the trailer and have been promoting that we should not be puppet masters to, the 1%, the super elite who have loads of money and have been manipulating the population like puppets. And it's time for us to wake up and to take back control of our lives, to take responsibility for our lives. And I actually am very hopeful about where things are headed as a planet. I feel like there's an awakening that's taking place. People are realizing that we've got to do things different. We need to awaken to several things. Our innate potential as human beings, that we can do great things. And